Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. I'm the president of Emergency Management Associates. Also, guess what? I want to welcome you here. We are coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We're going to dispense with the singing of the United States National Anthem for tonight because we are so far behind. It's already 7:30 Eastern Time, and we're over an hour and a half late from coming on the air. I fully intended to be on the air at 6 p.m. I'm sorry I'm not here before now. Now, I have a lot of things I need to talk to you about, so please bear with me. Please hang in there with me. First, I want to talk about Ukraine, what has happened over in Ukraine overnight. Let me play this short video for you.
Ukraine's military is calling overnight drone strikes on Russia one of the biggest attacks of its kind since the start of the war nearly 3 years ago. Moscow's defense ministry says Kyiv's actions will not go unanswered. It said Ukraine fired at least 146 drones, as well as US-made ATACMS missiles and British-made cruise missiles. Russian officials say they shot down all of the missiles fired at the Bryansk region. Well, for more on these developments, we're joined now by Jonah Hull, who is in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Jonah, Ukraine describing this as as one of the largest attacks of its kind. Can you, first of all, just put that into perspective for us?
Well, first of all, Ukraine, its military and its intelligence service now corroborating those claims that have been circulating for hours, largely among Russian military bloggers. You mentioned them there, talking about this major drone and missile strike at military targets, military infrastructure in a number of Russian cities. Those bloggers also talking about Russia shooting down 200 drones, they said, as well as 6 US-made ATACMS ballistic missiles and 6 British-made Storm Shadow missiles. The Ukrainians not confirming those particular details, but the general military staff saying, as you said, that this is the most massive attack, their words, since the beginning of the war inside Russian territory. A number of cities targeted, infrastructure targets within them, ranging from between 200 and 1,100 kilometers deep inside Russian territory. The intelligence service saying that chemical plants were hit, refineries were hit, and significantly the Engels air base in the western Saratov region, its ammunition and fuel depots hit. The Engels air base, you may know, is the home to Russia's long-range bombers, the Tu-95 and Tu-160 bombers, responsible for firing quite a lot of the cruise missiles that have for a long time menaced Ukrainian cities and Ukraine's energy infrastructure. So part of this effort obviously aimed at trying to impede Russia's ability to get those planes and their payloads into the air.
As we said, Russia said that this will not go unanswered. What is the likely response from them to be?
Well, to answer that, I think it's worth looking at what Ukraine's purpose in doing this likely is. Less than a week now before Donald Trump takes office next week, Ukraine, I think, will be keen with this kind of an attack deep inside Russian territory to show its Western allies, and largely, of course, the United States, its ability, the extent of its ability to use their missiles to hit targets inside Russia, and hopefully to show Donald Trump that that is a cause worth supporting when he enters office. How will Russia, or how may Russia respond? Well, I'll take you back to November the 21st last year. That was just after the very first time Ukraine used its US ATACMS missiles to hit Russian targets inside Russia with its newly minted permission received from the Biden administration. Well, Vladimir Putin responded by warning that Ukraine was escalating this war into what he described as a global conflict. And then on the 21st of November...
What you just saw floating down from an aircraft were messages for Korean soldiers and Russian soldiers to give up. Okay, this is a PSYOP mission Ukraine's been on, dropping these leaflets down to the other side, telling them to give up. And many soldiers, both Korean and Russian, have given up.
Russia fired this terrifying weapon, the Oreshnik missile. It's an intermediate range hypersonic ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear payload. It didn't in that case. It made a large hole, though, in the city of Dnipro and sparked widespread fears, renewed fears of what may be to come next.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonah. As always, we appreciate you giving us the very latest. Jonah Hull for us in Kyiv.
Okay, that's coming from the BBC, guys, and we appreciate that. Now, let me give you an overhaul of what happened last night. Last night, we had many missiles that were launched at Ukraine. Joe Biden gave him permission. Last night, the United States had an E-6 command and control plane launched out of Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. It traveled down to the Gulf of Mexico, east and west, and then back to the north. Biden seems to keep his war footing with Russia and Ukraine. He wants to keep that coming on because he believes that as long as the United States keeps sending Ukraine money from the United States citizens, then guess what? Ukraine will keep funneling it back to him. But that's not going to happen. President Trump has already said that. Last night, but last Friday night, Biden sent Ukraine another $30 million. He has also given Ukraine permission to continue to launch missiles at Russia. American-made and British-made missiles at Russia. Last night, Russia got tired of it, and Russia began fighting back. Russia launched another massive missile attack in Ukraine. They launched dozens of missiles from various directions from the Black Sea inside Russian territory into Ukraine, bound for Kiev. Those missiles were mainly aimed at energy-producing areas of Ukraine. They used fighter jets and short-range ballistic missiles. As many as 14 Tu-95 Bear bombers from Russia were involved in last night's attack. Last night's attack concentrated on Ukraine energy generating facilities. Russia had 2 command and control aircraft launched. One of those command and control aircraft, and I have a picture of it here. If you just give me a second here. Maybe I don't. I've got it on my software here. Hold on, I'll get it for us. There it is. Let me widen it out here so you can truly see what's going on. Now, Russia had 2 command and control aircraft launched. One left Moscow headed for Siberia. You can see that here on the picture that I've saved here for you. You can see the blue line headed for Siberia. One headed for Siberia, the other turned and shut off its equipment so we could not trace where it went to. It happened just after it became airborne. The Russian command and control aircraft shut off its tracking radar. U.S. nuclear forces are still on high alert today. We have had nuclear war command and control E-6s up in the air since last night. We have a Cobra Ball aircraft airborne over North Dakota, which is a special type of plane that can detect and track missiles. We had another one over Montana, and another one over Minnesota, because we have aircraft, missiles launched there from those areas. So we had these Cobra Ball airborne aircraft to help the United States military know if Russia launched something towards us. That's the purpose of that. Now, we had a B-52 bomber airborne over Louisiana. and a nuke sniffer aircraft flying from the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes bearing northeast to southwest pattern. These planes can sample the atmosphere for traces of radiation. One such aircraft was launched from an air base in Northern California. Our nuclear forces are still on very high alert today. So far today we have had 16 emergency action messages. 16 emergency action messages. They're called EAMs. In the last 10 hours, about 10 emergency action messages going back to back over the airwaves of the military. We believe that something could go down again tonight. I am going to be up late tonight monitoring everything 24/7 for at least a while. I think we need to track what's going on. I know for a fact that what is going on is not right. Okay? Biden is provoking the bear. And I think Putin is going to get tired of it right before President Trump takes office. Biden is doing his best to defy President Trump. Biden is doing everything in his power to screw President Trump's inauguration up and also mess up his ability to see things that are going to happen and make sure that he can correct it. Biden is doing everything in his power. Now you also notice we had an aircraft from Sweden. This aircraft from Sweden is just southwest of Stockholm in a place called Örebro. The Swedes launched this aircraft. It's a Gulfstream 4. It's an investigatory aircraft from Sweden. Made by Volvo, by the way, and Saab. This aircraft you see launched from Sweden. It headed over to Poland. And from there it went down the Russian border and all the way down into Ukraine. Okay? It followed the Bear bombers. That Swedish aircraft followed the Bear bombers in open airspace. Okay? That's what you see there. You see the aircraft launched from Sweden going over to Poland and then going south towards Ukraine. Okay? That's quite a deal, isn't it? Sweden just joined NATO. Sweden just joined NATO this past year. This is one of the biggest reasons right now that Sweden has launched aircraft monitoring that area. I believe it's going to continue. Okay? Like I said, I will be watching it 24/7 from now on for at least several days. At least until President Trump takes over. President Trump is not happy about it. Now, I want to go over and talk about what is happening in Southern California as well. Now, we have a lot of things going on. Okay? The fire is still raging. Now, we have a new heliport. Cal Fire has a heliport over near Altadena, between Altadena and Pacific Palisades. This heliport is beautiful. Okay? Cal Fire has always needed a heliport that they can go in and out of easily during fire season. Let me play this short video for you. It's only about a minute long.
And we are ready to take off. Hit Alpha.
We are here on the Palisades incident, and this is our 24-hour helibase where we have not only our day crews but our night crews, and of that we are now officially a 24-hour base. I've got upwards of 200 people. I've got our Cal Fire crews. I have multiple call when needed aircraft, and on top of all that I've got the National Guard here as well. Our CAL FIRE aircraft has been pivotal in that, where we now have the technology, the resources, and now specialized trained personnel that can operate during the day and transition into nights. This is pretty historic for us. This would be the first time that we have started a 24-hour operation. Typically when the sun goes down, our aircraft go down with it, and then we start up again early the next morning. In this instance, we are officially 24 hours.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. I'm going to try to reactivate it again. Thanks, partner. Bye. Okay, guys, I wanted to play that for you so you can see it. These helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft have been very essential for the firefighting over here in Southern California. Become very essential. Now, I just took a call from our buddy Don. He said that our video was frozen. I'm going to do something quickly here and see if we can get it back here. There I am again. Here I am. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, I recovered from the other video that we had that limited my reach here, but I've come back here. But what is going on? What's going on in Southern California? What's going on all over California? Let me tell you. We have a lot of companies and corporations and various industries that are trying to get people food and the necessities of life who have lost everything because of the fires. Even Newscomb. Newscomb's gotten into the action. Okay, it says Governor Newscomb sparks outrage as donation link to LA fire relief connects to his super PAC. Yes, guys, everyone needs to know this. Okay? If you decide to give money to Newscomb for fire relief, it does not go to Newscomb. It goes to a super PAC. It goes directly to Act Blue. Okay? Act Blue is a Democrat super PAC. Democrat Political Action Committee. Don't do that. Because we don't know whether Newscomb is going to forward some of that money over to the fire relief or keep it for his campaign. He's lying about what he's doing. He's absolutely lying about what he's doing. This super PAC he has established to run for President of the United States. That super PAC is to gain campaign money for his run at the presidency of the United States in 2028. So please, if you see this come up as one of the donation sites for the LA fires, don't do it. Especially if you give your name, your address, and your telephone number, be assured you will be contacted by Act Blue, the campaign, to solicit money to you again for his presidential campaign within the next 2 to 3 years. You will get information from Mr. Newscomb. You need to be aware of that. Okay? Like I've been telling you, I do not trust Newscomb at all. And this is just one more feather in his hat to stab himself in the back. It's unreal what he's doing. Now, like I said, Biden is not far behind him. Biden is already linked forces with NATO. Or I'm sorry, not NATO, the UN. Biden has linked forces with the United Nations. Let me show you this. I think you're going to be blown away by what I have to show you. Now I'm going to blow this up so you can see a lot more of it and be able to read it. This is Biden's certification. Okay, his certification of rescission of Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. Pursuant to the Constitution and the laws of the United States, and consistent with sections 1754C and 1768C of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2019. 50 U.S.C. Section 4813C and Section 4826C. I hereby certify with respect to the rescission of the designation of January 12, 2021 regarding Cuba, that the government of Cuba has not provided any support for international terrorism during the preceding 6-month period. How do we know that? Biden is lying through his teeth again. The government of Cuba has provided assurances that will not support acts of international terrorism to the future. Interesting. They have told Biden that they're not going to provide assistance to any terrorism organization going in the future. This certification shall also satisfy the provisions of Section 620A(c) and 2 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. Section 22 U.S. Code, U.S. Code 2371, which is Section 2371C, and 2, Section 440 F1B of the Arms Report Control Act, Public Law 90-629, as amended, again, 22 United States Code, Section 2780 F1B, and to the extent applicable, Section 6 J4B of the Export Administration Act of 1979. Public Law 9672 is amended, 50 United States Code, Application 2405J, and has continued in effect by Executive Order 13222 of August 17, 2001. Signed, Joseph R. Biden Jr. What does that do? This allows Cuba to have official status with the United States. Up until now, Cuba has been considered a sponsor of terrorism. Cuba has been suspected of terrorism from Russia, from Libya, from Iraq and Iran. They've done that, and they've gotten away with it. But now, Biden has opened it up. He opened up our southern borders before, and now we have a lot of terrorists coming into the United States because Biden opened it up. What the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? He's opened it up. New terrorists are coming into the United States. The United States is facing a new imminent danger. Military-aged men from across the globe, ages 18 to 42. They came in alone. They did not come with families. They came in alone. They've been seen on videos. Literally. Seen on videos crossing the border. They are not carrying identification cards. They drop their cards on the southern side of the border so they don't get caught in the United States with verification where they came from. They want everybody to believe, oh my gosh, we're good people. We're good people. But they're not. They're not good people at all. Some of them are prisoners from other countries that were released from prisons. Others are terrorists coming from the Middle East. We have terrorist cells all over the United States right now. And yet, Biden wants us to think that, oh, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's incredible what's going on, guys. really is incredible. We see all kinds of stuff going on. All kinds of stuff going on. And yet we're supposed to just ignore it. Oh, everything's right in Whoville. Everything's all right in Whoville. Really? A lot of us don't see it that way. A lot of us don't see it that way at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. And yet, the Biden administration wants us to think that. Oh, nothing's going on. Nothing's going to happen. Really? Nothing's going to happen, huh? That's interesting. Now, I want to talk about California and the fires. 53,000 Californians seek disaster aid. 53,000 people since yesterday have signed up for disaster aid, while dangerous winds still pose a threat to Southern California. A big threat. Right here you're looking at part of the downtown area in Altadena. Okay? Folks, this area is still on fire. This just happens to be a hardware store in Altadena, California that got burned out. This is downtown Altadena, the Eaton fire, the EATON fire. It's going on. It's not going to stop. It is actually not going to stop at all. Now, I want to go on and tell you what's going on here. Strong Santa Ana winds are blowing in still. Okay? These winds are still scheduled to blow in until 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. 6 p.m. tonight. Unreal. Literally unreal. Now, the winds are going to the winds are going to come down a little bit. They're going to calm down a little bit after 6 p.m. tonight. But be assured that these winds will start up again next week. These winds will start up next week. The pink area here is red flag warning area. Red flag warning area. The red area, the dark red or what shall I say, purple area here, guess what? This area is the area of high winds. Okay? This area is a mountain area around Los Angeles. Santa Clarita area here. The winds here have been upwards of 80 miles per hour, literally all day long. The mountain areas around Los Angeles, the winds have been upwards of 80 miles per hour, 60 to 80 miles per hour most of the day today. And it's still going on. It's still going on. Now, do they think it's going to stop? It's going to slow down starting just about 6 p.m. Another hour from now. But I guarantee you, the fires are not going to stop. Fires are definitely not going to stop. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Red flag warnings and a particularly dangerous situation are in effect, with a high risk for large fires in the region. Local officials have urged more than 90,000 residents to be on alert and heed any evacuation warnings and orders. For the most part, winds have remained low on the low end for most of the morning until noon today, but they picked up this afternoon. We've gotten very lucky because the wind speeds, for the most part, have stayed lower than the forecast that they had originally thought. The winds are ground level in most of the LA area around 15 to 35 miles an hour, which is allowing the fire departments, firefighters, to get a forward boost over the fires. The tops of the mountains, like I said, have been upwards of 50 to 80 miles per hour most of the day. The tops of the mountains, the winds have been upwards of 50 to 80 miles per hour. Clocked. The Los Angeles County Fire Department Chief Anthony Marone said earlier today at a press briefing, "I urge everyone to stay alert. The combination of low humidity and strong winds has further dried out the brush, which is increasing the risk of fire." These heavy-duty winds have increased. They have increased, guys, which has allowed these fires to get out of control. Now they do expect to calm down after 6 p.m. tonight, and then they should remain calm for at least another 2 or 3 days. Okay? The area's largest blazes, the Palisades and Eaton Fire. Well, I just got through showing you that this hardware store in Altadena. It's going, guys. It's still going. It's going to continue to go. Everyone needs to know it. Everyone needs to know it and understand that it's not going to calm down all the way. The Pacific Palisades and the Eaton Fire are now among the most destructive fires in Southern California's history. Significant progress has been made on the fires in the last couple of days, despite tricky weather conditions. The Palisades fire has torn across nearly 24,000 acres and is only 19% contained. The Eaton Fire is 45% contained and has burned more than 14,000 acres. Today has been expected to be the last real windy day of the Santa Ana event so far, but more could reach the area by the beginning of next week. Higher winds, Santa Ana conditions could also start coming next Monday. Now let me discuss with you the key points of what's going on here. Fire death tolls. At least 25 people have been killed in Palisades and Eaton fires. 5 people in the Pacific Palisades and 20 people at least killed in the Eaton fires. Most extreme weather warnings have been issued as bruising Santa Ana winds return. Most extreme weather warnings have been issued because of the Santa Ana winds return. Federal and local law enforcement authorities from task force to crime committed excuse me, let me back up here. Federal and local law enforcement authorities have formed task force to combat crimes related to the Los Angeles wildfires. It's a sad day today. A fabulous 95-year-old grandmother with ties to old Hollywood is among the California fire victims. A fabulous 95-year-old woman, a grandmother with ties all the way back to old Hollywood, was found to be one of the California fire victims over in the Eaton Fire area. The LA County weather forecast is cooler with less wind. Well, winds have peaked and will continue to lower this evening. Dry conditions, low humidity, and locally gusty winds will linger into Thursday, especially in some mountain areas. Red flag warnings will expire at 6 p.m. today for most areas, except those windiest mountain areas, which will go through at least tomorrow at 3 p.m. At 3 p.m., CAL FIRE and other jurisdictions will reassess where the situation is and reassess whether they will issue new red flag warnings or let the present red flag warnings expire. Now, what is the good news? The good news is We're expecting a much needed break from the fire. The fire weather conditions are going to close this week. The bad news is, next week is a concern. Now, while the weather forecasters are confident that we will not see a repeat of last week, dangerous fire weather conditions are expected. Now, like I said, it's going to get colder in Southern California. The highs tomorrow are going to be in the low 50s. The lows tonight are going to get into the 40s. It's going to be very chilly. Now, as I showed you that video a little bit earlier, Cal Fire has made history with their first 24-hour heliblaze. Cal Fire helicopters that will now regularly fly night and daytime firefighting missions. The man that's controlling it, you heard him say that they have the state-of-the-art Cal Fire helicopters. Federal and local aircraft are also working around the clock to protect the communities and build containment over and around the LA fires. Now, this helicopter helibase is a game changer. Before now, the helibase was out in the outskirts of the LA mountains. Now it's right there in Los Angeles where it is. It's going to allow Cal Fire and the other agencies to operate continuously around the clock for a large scale, even after the sun goes down. Now, with that said, today, there are a large number of firefighting personnel on duty. A huge upward range of people that have been assigned to the Los Angeles fire. Let me show you this. Today, 1:30 p.m., deployed resources in Southern California. 16,815 firefighting personnel. 2,535 California National Guard members. 1,480 fire engines from literally around the country, Canada, and Mexico. 84 aircraft. 220 water tenders, those huge water buffalo trucks that you see roaming around various areas. Even around here in the United States, you see them. Mostly run by construction companies. But these water tenders are now helping the fire department have water when the lakes were dried up by Governor Newsom. Okay, water tenders are available. 210 bulldozers. 210 bulldozers. Now let's go back and talk about Governor Newsom. It's incredible what he's gotten away with. Why? I think we've already talked about this during the last few days, since last week. Newsom has gotten away with murder. Literally. What? Southern Sumatra just had a 5.5 large earthquake just a few minutes ago. Anyway, getting back to Newsom. Newsom drained 2 large lakes. 2 of the largest lakes in California. Drained them last year. And let the water go into the ocean. One of those lakes was in Pacific Palisades. One of those lakes was in Pacific Palisades. Had Newsom not drained that lake, there would have been no dry fire hydrants. If Newsom had not drained that lake, there would have been plenty of water to fight these fires. But he drained 2 lakes because he's a game changer when it comes to climate change. He wants to make sure his climate people get water out to the oceans. Wants to make sure these little bitty 2 or 3 inch long fish survive. They'll survive just fine in the harbors, Believe you me. When I've been in San Diego and Los Angeles Harbor on a day boat, we stop the bait barge and they have plenty of bait fish. The bait fish is not going to go away just because dipstick Newscomb decides that he's going to drain some reservoirs out in the ocean. Newscomb is out of his mind. There's presently a huge recall in effect to take him out of office. There's a recall in effect to take Newscomb out of office as soon as possible. But Newscomb is part of the problem. Newscomb is part of the problem. Workers have been marshaling resources from across the government and out-of-state neighbors and even international partners to fight the LA wildfires and help recover the people. Today, like I said, 16,815 firefighters, 2,535 CAL FIRE Guard members. 14, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't say CAL FIRE, California National Guard members. 1,480 fire engines, 84 aircraft, 220 water tenders, 210 dozers. Dozens of Los Angeles residents, some armed, are defying evacuation orders to protect their homes as in the Old West. Now, why am I talking like that? Basically, it's this. There are a lot of people that have decided that they do not like what's been going on. A lot of people decided they don't like it. And they've taken matters into their own hands to make sure there are resources. To make sure there are resources to fight this fire. And also to protect their property. They're going to make sure they can protect their property. One such person, his name is Aaron Lubely. Aaron Lubely. This man lives in Pacific Palisades. He lives in Pacific Palisades. He's armed. He is armed to defend what is his. His house burned down. But as looters and burglars that have stolen into the area and trying to loot homes and loot everything that's been burned to the ground, he and dozens of other people who are armed or have opted to defend their scorched properties from blazes and looters. Now, let me tell you about that. What does it take? What does it take for residents of California to defend their property? One earthquake that happened 15 minutes ago in Sumatra, southern Indonesia, or southern Sumatra, over on the northwest side of Sumatra, was downgraded from a 4.9 to a 4.8, an aftershock from the 5.5. Anyway, there's people over in Los Angeles trying to protect their burned out properties and protect their homes. They refuse to leave. As a former resident of California, residents of California cannot carry a firearm opened. They are not allowed to carry firearms openly on their belts or otherwise. They have to obtain a concealed weapons permit. And even then, law enforcement officers can ask to see that permit and take it. Law enforcement officers in California, because of the governor, can seize concealed weapons permit holders, can seize their property. And if they seize the concealed weapons permit, they will arrest the permit holder. Because in California, If you do not possess a concealed weapons permit, you're not allowed to have it under your clothes. And if a California police officer takes your permit, all of a sudden you're committing a felony in California. Fact. And that's what's happening here. Now, these people refuse to leave their property. Now, there are nearly 88,000 people in Los Angeles County who are still under evacuation orders, not warnings, but orders. 88,000 people are under evacuation orders in LA County. And that's as of today. Wildfires have continued to scorch the region, but that has not deterred 80 local people in Altadena and Pacific Palisades from sticking around, and some of them are armed to stand their ground. They're armed to stand their ground. Even without clean water or electricity, the stragglers are remaining firm, since they may not be allowed to return to their property if they leave, due to the ongoing threat of downed power lines, weakened trees, and firenadoes. Yes, tornadoes in a fire. Firenadoes. Aaron here said, "We do feel like we're in the Old West, the wild, wild West." While the evacuation orders were first issued on January 7th, his wife and adult son fled their home so fast that his wife forgot to take her purse. But Lubely wasn't around. When he finally arrived home, he scooped up his family's passports, photos, and other belongings. The next day he came back to see his neighborhood covered in ash. If I had stayed and saved my house, I could have saved 3 of my neighbors. He could have saved 3 of his neighbors' homes. He has stayed at his home with a 9mm handgun ever since. Aaron here said he could be in Manhattan having a steak and a drink, but he said, "I couldn't live with myself if I did that, and my neighbor's house goes up." He's also defending his neighborhood, and it gives him a sense of value and purpose. The wildfires have raged for more than a week now. 9 days. This is the 10th day. The fires have spanned over 40,000 acres, and they're far from being completely contained. As of today, the blaze over in the Eaton fire, including Altadena and other areas, is over 12,000 structures gone. Over 12,000 structures either destroyed or completely taken apart by the fire. And as of today, 25 people have died between Pacific Palisades and the Eaton fire. 82,000 people remain under mandatory evacuation orders. One of Lubely's friends delivered supplies including water, bagels, bananas, and grain-free tortilla chips to Lubely and others that stayed in the fire area. Now, starting this past Monday, 2 days ago, National Guard members have joined the force of trying to help with these fires. The National Guard members were posted at various streets that were coming into either the Eaton, where the Eaton fire is, and over into the Pacific Palisades. The National Guard members are there, and they're going to remain there for probably a good long time. They're going to remain there for a good long time to make sure the property is guarded. Now, this checkpoint is set up by the National Guard law enforcement people. Yes, the United States Army, the United States Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, have military police officers, and that's what these guys are designated as. But while they're here in Los Angeles, they're sworn law enforcement officers in the state of California. One such officer said this: "Can you guys hurry up? We just got an order not to allow any supplies through." Lubely asked the officer for permission, and the friends hugged over the yellow caution tape that is being used to fence off a makeshift border, because Lubely is staying on one side and his friends on the other. Elsewhere in Altadena, Eve Anna Manley, who runs an audio equipment business, has been waiting for this moment. Manley has 60 gallons of drinking water, hot water tanks for showering, and a reverse osmosis water filter. She's one of the few in the neighborhood still having power, thanks to her own 22 kilowatt generator. Does it sound like this Eva Marie Manley is a prepper? Do you think she's prepared? It sounds like it. She has 60 gallons of drinking water, hot water tanks for showering, and a reverse osmosis water filter for drinking. She's one of the few people in the neighborhood still with power, because she has her own 22 kilowatt generator. Now, there's something that some of you also need to know. The schools are going to remain closed. The schools are going to remain closed for at least another week. For at least another week. The authorities believe that because of fire areas, they're being rekindled. Because there's breezes and wind blowing into the fire areas, they're rekindling the blaze. Rekindling it as smoke is appearing in some of the areas where they put out the fire. Schools are going to remain closed. In the Eden and the the Pacific Palisades fire area. The Palisades High School has burned down. 2 middle schools have burned to the ground. 1 elementary school is almost burned to the ground. There is a Catholic school. The Catholic sanctuary has burned down to the ground. But there are school buildings on the outside of that property. School buildings on the outside of that property that were built just last year. Those 12 classrooms at that Catholic school are still standing. But because that school building is still standing does not mean those students can go back to that school. The head of that Catholic school is asking the public to help give her a building where the students continue to go to school. Because the students miss school. They miss their classmates that they've had. They miss the routine. And so again, the head of that Catholic school over in Altadena is asking for help from the public to grant them permission to use another building with at least 12 classrooms so that they can start school again. It's urgent. It's urgent, guys. These people need the help. These people need the help. Now, does anybody have any questions for me? I know I've given you a lot of information here. And I want to just briefly talk about North Carolina. Cowboy Roy Rogers is here. He said the National Guard didn't guard or assist Appalachia, North Carolina, or Tennessee very long. No, they didn't. That's because Biden wouldn't allow the Governor Roy Cooper, permission to keep those National Guard troops over in the western North Carolina area and over in the Tennessee. Biden stopped it from happening. The governors have to petition the U.S. president to be able to activate the National Guard. Biden activated them for a very short time, and then he lifted his order. That's why. Just like FEMA only gave the people in western North Carolina money to stay in hotels until Friday, when FEMA dried it up and the people got kicked out of the hotels that they were staying in because their property had been damaged or destroyed. Now those people don't have a home. Those people don't have a home. Now, because of some of you, during the past 2 to 3 weeks, we've gotten some donations, and I forwarded on to Samaritan's Purse and also to the Glenn Beck Mercury One organization to provide money to their organizations to provide help for the people in North Carolina. Glenn Beck's done that. So is Samaritan's Purse. I spoke about that last night. I'm talking about it again. If you folks want to donate to either Mercury One or Samaritan's Purse, or if you want to donate to the Red Cross, I don't advise you to donate to the Red Cross, because the Red Cross personnel take the money, and furthermore, they take most of the money and keep it for themselves, for their own salaries, before they give any other money to the public. Again, give your money to organizations that will help people. Now, this does not mean that Heidi Pedrick just gave us another $20 in the super chat. Thank you so much, Heidi. I appreciate that. God bless you for that. We truly, truly appreciate it. Heidi Petrick has gave us a lot of money over the past couple weeks. We appreciate that. Heidi Petrick has also provided memberships to the EMA family here. She just gifted another 5 EMA memberships here on YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. We greatly appreciate that. She gifted Dustin K a membership. Miss Constitutional Rights was gifted a 1-month membership. Dennis N was gifted a 1-month membership. Scott Kitchell and Lady L were gifted a 1-month membership. Those of you that received 1-month memberships, please thank Heidi Petrick. Please thank Heidi Petrick for that. She's a real duel. She really is. Now, folks, if you want to help support this program, because of you guys during the past few weeks, I've given money to Samaritan's Purse and the Mercury One. I'm going to continue that. As soon as I get paid, sometime after the 21st of this month, I'm going to give more money to Samaritan's Purse and to Mercury One to help the people here in North Carolina. I'm going to do that. If you guys want to help support this program, keep the lights on here, to keep this program on the air, you can do that. But I'm also going to take some of that money and give it to those charities to help people here in North Carolina that no longer have a home. They no longer have a home because Joe Biden and his people won't allow it. Yet Joe Biden's committed that he's going to pay for all firefighting efforts from FEMA. He's going to guarantee that the firefighters get paid through FEMA. Where are the people getting help in North Carolina? There have been babies that have been dead, found frozen to death in North Carolina. because of Joe Biden. Charlene says, what's confusing is a family who's lost it all is now overnight living in a car for the first time in their lives. Yes, many are armed and getting arrested for it. That's just in the fire zone. How about those people here in North Carolina? They're either living in their cars or tents in the cold. Some of those people, some of them living in tents, have a wood stove in their tent. But not all of them. Not all of them. So if you guys want to help support this program and help me contribute to these charities to get these people some heat off the street, yes, they may have to live in a tent, but maybe, just maybe, they can have a wooden stove in their tent. Okay? Delete Fund says, is there a reason to send the money to you instead of directly to the charity? I told you could send them directly to the charity. But again, I'm taking some of this money and giving it to them to make sure it will go to North Carolina. Right now, I'm more worried about those people in the cold of North Carolina than the people in Southern California. And yes, when the time comes, when I know the people in North Carolina are not freezing to death, I will turn that money over to Southern California. Promise. Delete Funds is asking, will Trump be able to take care of North Carolina on Monday? He might. He might. When he was here in North Carolina this past October, he gave the people of North Carolina over $1 million of his own money to help the people here in North Carolina that lost everything. $1 million of his own money. Not FEMA money, because he had no control of that. But he gave the people here in North Carolina $1 million. Now, I don't remember how many people have lost everything here in North Carolina, but there's hundreds. It's unreal. It's literally unreal. When we have people like Biden, when we have people like Newsom and Hillary Clinton, this is what happens. They live high on the hog. They misappropriate money like Newsom's doing, asking people to contribute to his Southern California Relief Fund that actually goes to Act Blue, a campaign organization to get him money, to get him elected as President of the United States. What a farce. What a farce. Orange Blossom is saying that she hopes one of the first orders he signs is to do with North Carolina. I agree. I totally agree. Delete Fund says FEMA's not an insurance company. They're not. They're absolutely not an insurance company. However, when they have money, and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, appropriated $30 billion to FEMA in October, specifically for Florida, Georgia, South and North Carolina. $30 billion. I'm asking what happened to it. What happened to it? Because the people of North Carolina didn't get it. And in fact, in November and December, FEMA members sat on their hands. They prohibited trailers coming in with tiny homes. They did not permit trailers coming in with tiny homes to house people that didn't have a home to stay in. After FEMA pulled out in November, the end of November, all of a sudden NASCAR people came in pulling these tiny homes on trailers. And at first, the sheriff wasn't going to let them in. But the sheriff finally let them in. I think NASCAR was pulling 16 tiny homes into that area. But 16 tiny homes wasn't sufficient to house everybody. There are still people living in tents here in North Carolina in the mountains that are cold and snowy. And yes, we just got some snow this past weekend. Unreal. Linda Covington is here in the chat saying she's glad we mentioned relief effort in North Carolina because it's home of her sister here in Marion. Marion is just 20 miles west of where I'm at. I've been in Marion before. And she works in Asheville, North Carolina, which is just about 50 miles west of that, west of Marion. I've been in Asheville before as well. Charlene is saying record snow is expected in the area at the close of January. Many are freezing to death. They are. Many babies have died because they were exposed to the cold. They died from being frozen to death. Orange Blossom is asking, did they ever let the homes that the Amish built in? Yes, NASCAR pulled them in. NASCAR pulled them in December. Okay? At first they kicked them out. FEMA kicked them out. FEMA, the organization from the federal government that was established because of the Sanford Act. When Jimmy Carter was in office. And FEMA denied those tiny homes come in. Oh, they can't come in because they might be in a 100-year floodplain. Really? You're not going to let these homes come in even temporarily to house these people. There's not going to be a 100-year flood between now and next spring. Not going to happen. But that's what FEMA did and does. Delete Funds is saying they're living in tents by choice. Right now, that's true. They don't have any other choice. Delete Funds says there's lots of misinformation about Hurricane Helene. Yes, there is. You're absolutely right. Charlene said the county zoned out their use, and also some of the FEMA tiny homes don't know the details. Too sad for all those folks. Prayers to all. FEMA didn't let them in. Yes, the county rezoned some properties. The county rezoned some properties because of the 100-year floodplain. They came in under law about the 100-year floodplain. There was even a possibility of a flood happening within a 100-year period. They rezoned that area so people could not have homes there, even temporary homes. But FEMA would not let anybody in. Delete Fund says it was not FEMA who denied it. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I know the story. I've been there and talked to people. I've been there and talked to people that have told me. And yes, it's unbelievable. Miss Constitution Right says it's unbelievable. You're absolutely right. It's unreal. Now, Haven on the Hill is another charity organization helping people here in North Carolina. They help them set up the village for these tiny homes and getting permits. Yes, they've helped. And yes, there are now areas for tiny homes. But let me tell you something else. FEMA has over 200 to 300 trailers sitting on a piece of property in an open meadow. Unoccupied trailers sitting there who could be homes at least temporarily for people here in North Carolina. Yet they're sitting in a field unoccupied. Delete Funds is asking, what are the local churches doing? Let me tell you what the local churches are doing, including the church I go to. They got supplies together. Truckloads of supplies came from Salt Lake City, came from Missouri, came from Mississippi, came from North Dakota. Truckloads of supplies from Texas came in. Churches donated truckloads of supplies. Glenn Beck flew 6 plane loads of supplies over here to Hickory, North Carolina. From there, Glenn Beck bought out 15 helicopters for as long as it took to ferry those supplies from Hickory, North Carolina up to Asheville, to Boone, and other places such as Chimney Rock, to make sure the people here in Western North Carolina got the help. He brought 6 plane loads of goods. The Catholic Diocese, the Lutheran Church, the LDS Church got everything together. Different counties here in North Carolina, including Burke County, where I live, had a thrift shop put together asking for donations. The county got those donations from people all over Burke County and ferried those donations up to Western North Carolina, and they're still doing that today. Yes, they're doing that. Linda Covington says they need canisters of fuel propane for stoves. Maybe I will take some of that money that's coming to me on 21st or 22nd, somewhere in there. I'll take some of that money and buy propane myself to take it up there. But they need help. Those people in Western North Carolina need help. Okay? Delete Funds says many donated supplies, including food, end up in flea markets. I was not told that either. I will check into that. Those donated supplies and food should not be ended up at flea markets. Catherine Sigerson said, are people in North Carolina allowed to stay in a tent? Apparently, because that's what they're doing. They're staying in tents. There's several hundred people staying in tents. It's incredible what's going on. And yes, S-Nord is saying they're suppressing it. They're suppressing it. They absolutely are. The federal government does not want anybody to know exactly what's going on. Delete Funds is asking how many yards are full of donated supplies that will never be distributed. If that's the case, I want to know about that as well, because I will blow the lid off of it. I will blow the lid off of it because there are people that need it, and I will do whatever it takes to do it. You can share this program with everybody you know, because I will get the word out. I will make sure the word gets out. Orange Blossom is asking why on earth the generals at Fort Bragg weren't ordered to mobilize and help is beyond insane. You're absolutely right. They have everything at Fort Bragg. They could have saved lives and built tent cities as well. For a short while, the military, the National Guard were there building tents. They were. But again, Biden pulled them back out. Biden pulled them back out. Why? There are all kinds of tent facility or tenting available over at Fort Bragg. If Biden would have allowed it. Maybe Trump will. Hopefully Trump will. Charlene says, over 15 years ago, we witnessed the glamour restoration of Louisiana after Katrina, with indigenous poor. Robust into unknown destinations for some of the worst neighborhoods there. I've been there. I was part of the federal contingent of law enforcement that went to New Orleans after Katrina. I was there for 30 days helping dispatch federal law enforcement. Why? Because the New Orleans police booked. Before Hurricane Katrina hit, New Orleans police left. And then they were fired for leaving. Some New Orleans police that stayed ended up getting arrested themselves for looting Walmarts and various other stores that were there. Yes, a sergeant from New Orleans police was arrested carrying a TV and other goods out to his police car, looting a Walmart. I was there, I know. And several other police officers were also arrested. There were police officers going door to door asking for people's guns. Illegal search and seizure. That lieutenant and 4 other officers were also arrested. Police officers can't come to your home and ask if you have weapons and tell you that you have to tell them. Sorry, you don't have to. They have to have a warrant. Police have to have a warrant, and it has to be specific for individual things. They just can't come to your door and tell you to turn over anything that you got. It's against the law. It's against the law. Delete Funds is here saying everyone who was boots on the ground right after a hurricane has abandoned the people. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Chainsaws, generators, heaters, sleeping bags, all being sold. Delete Funds, send me an email. I want to follow up on that. And if I find that's happening, I will rain all sorts of hellfire and damnation on those people. I will make sure those people pay for it. It's against the law. Once those things are donated, they can't end up on the market. Yards and yards of donated items have been moved to different distribution centers so they can continue to be used. Cowboy Roy Rogers. They can't just sit out in the yard and have some and be decayed. They have to have some place with a warehouse. Yes, Cowboy, I agree. I hope they did that. That those food stuff and other supplies make it back to the people who need it. If you guys find something wrong with what's going on, let me know. Because I will research and I will be all over the place. I will be all over the place. Okay? Delete Funds says active duty troops are not for natural disasters. Yes, they are. A governor of a state can request permission from President of the United States to activate the National Guard. That's a protocol. After natural disaster, the governor can request assistance from the federal government in terms of FEMA, law enforcement people, or anybody else that can help, including FEMA, including the National Guard. How do I know that? Because I've been activated before. No, I'm not part of the National Guard, but I've done disaster drills. I've been on the site after several natural disasters myself. I've been there, done that. I've assisted National Guard troops myself. Many National Guard troops are my friends. Many National Guard troops throughout this country are my friends. Yes, a governor can make those people active duty. Send those National Guard troops out to a natural disaster. I've seen it. I've done it. Now, Cowboy Roy Rogers knows what he's talking about, too. The information he's posted here in the chat is true. Okay? Many of those tents were summer tents. They're setting up larger winter tents as well. Yes, they have wood stoves inside those. Many were donated, but thousands more are needed. And I will talk to Fort Bragg tomorrow morning. I will put in a call to Fort Bragg tomorrow morning and find out if they're going to put any more donated items over in Western North Carolina. I will call them myself. Charlene Mayo is saying unoccupied trailers in a field is a waste of our resources. Shameful America. I agree. But I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures of those empty trailers and empty RVs. They're owned by FEMA. Ray Rogers is saying the FEMA trailers that Gentry and Sons and many trucking companies took into North Carolina were used for FEMA employees and contract workers, not survivors of the devastation. You're right about that too. But there's several acres in the middle of a field, sitting there unoccupied. That should never be allowed to happen. Not in our country ever. Not ever. Orange Blossom said she lived in L.A. during the riots. She remembers Marines being sent into L.A. You're right. But again, it takes an act of the governor calling the president to get permission. Okay? S. North says in Bronco Billy, her favorite Eastwood movie, made a tent out of American flags. He ran a Wild West show and his burned down. Wow. Did not know that. I'll go look for that movie myself. I'd like to see that. Charlene Mayo says briquettes, lighters, fluid, wood blankets, flashlights, and canned goods. I agree. I have a list of those myself. Now, I've got something else here. I hope I still got here on my phone. I haven't deleted it. I don't know what happened to it here. Let me see if I still have it. No, let me try something else. One of the lists that people need is this: a survival tote checklist. Water, 1 gallon per person per day. Form of purification tablets, filters, or powder. Food. Easy foods. Jerky, protein bars, fruit snacks, fruit pouches. Dehydrated meals. Candy, trail mix, canned foods. A small cook kit. Mylar sleeping bag or emergency bivvy. Hand warmers. Rain ponchos. First aid kits including daily meds, hygiene needs. Glow sticks. Multi-tools. Cordage. 501 paracord. Zip ties. Duct tape. Flashlight. A power bank to keep your cell phones powered. Emergency weather radio, AM, FM weather radio. Ham radios. GMRS family radio service radios. Now, PPE. Proper protection equipment. Proper protection equipment. Okay, for emergencies. PPEs. Heavy duty gloves. A small tarp. If you're going to lose everything, you also need a copy of all your documents. Passport, driver's license, insurance cards to your house, and insurance cards for your car. Birth certificates, medical identification cards, school cards, other work identification cards. You need to make sure you have copies of all of that stuff as well. Now, I think I also have somewhere in my phone here I have a whole list of people's needs in Western North Carolina over in Tennessee. I had this here yesterday, and then I left the program without passing it on because we literally ran out of time. It was really getting late. It's already 9 p.m. here, but we've only been on the air an hour and a half. Now, where did that list go? Let me check one other place too. Here it is. I found the list. Okay? Things that people need. Okay? And yes, there's a charity over in San Diego. Okay? They're gathering supplies in San Diego. The San Diego Harley-Davidson is partnering with Restore San Diego as a drop-off location for emergency supplies to support LA, Los Angeles fire survivors. Drop off your donations today. The drop-off location is on Marina Boulevard in San Diego. 4645 Marina Boulevard in San Diego. They need food, water, coffee, snacks, animal-specific animal food, pet litter, litter boxes, leashes, collars, pet-safe cleaning spray, toys, elevated pet beds, kennels, disposable feeding trays, medical burn gels, stretchers, disinfectant, bleach, Lysol, Rocal, sanitary wipes, disposable gloves, Canine Emergency Operations Center chairs, extra blankets, whiteboard, markers, tables, extension cords, power strips, water, jugs, cots, coffee makers, paper towels, mops and buckets, toilet paper, plastic trash bags, newspapers, crates and cage enclosures, bedding, towels, blankets, and pillows, collapsible water containers, N95 and N100 masks in Los Angeles, biofilters, heaters, portable heaters, towels, brooms, dustpans, again, portable power banks for your phones, clear plastic organization bins and zip ties, outdoor hose with nozzles, lanterns, safety cones for rescue zones. All those things people need. And if you want me to, I will put this over on our messenger chat so you guys can access these lists of things that people need in Los Angeles, and they can also be used for people here in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, or Florida that need help. Okay? I'll make sure that list comes out. Okay? Shirley Mayo says tents in Western North Carolina not waterproof, winterproof. Yes, some of them are. And they can be made waterproof. There is waterproofing for tents that's available. And yes, they need military quality. I agree. Now you guys are talking to Catherine here. She says it's called cowboy policing and it's against the law. No, you're right. It's absolutely. PPE's personal protective equipment. Okay? And yes, it's too bad that there are bad people in charge that don't get to do anything. Now, I've talked to you guys about bad people in charge. Governor Newsom needs to go away. Mayor Bass in Los Angeles needs to go away. The fire chief, her assistant chief, and the person in charge of her DEI department manager. Right before she became police chief, I'm sorry, not before, right after she became police or fire chief. Right after she became fire chief. The LA mayor chopped up the budget. $23 million went away from the LA Fire Department. Fire engines and personnel went away. But right after that, the fire chief got money together and established a DEI department. Because there's bullies within the fire department. Yes, there are. There are bullies in the police departments. But I don't believe we need a DEI squad that's getting paid $500,000. Yeah, the 3 people in charge of the DEI squad within the LA Fire Department are making the $500,000. Unreal. Where did she get the money to do that? Her budget was cut by $23 million. Where did she get $500,000? Where did she get $500,000? She herself is getting nearly $500,000 herself. Her DEI manager is making $444,000. Her 2 assistants are making over $250,000. Where are they getting the money? If the LA Fire Department budget was cut by $23 million, where did this fire chief get the money to do that? I want to know. Linda Covington's here in the chat saying, don't forget about animal food and pets and livestock. I had that in the list. Different kinds of food. Animal food, dog food, cat food, bird food, whatever the pet is. It's essential. It's essential. Delete funds here in the chat saying the mainstream media is starting to talk about evacuation plans and go-backs. You're right, they are. They are. KTLA Channel 5 has talked about it. KCAL has been talking about it. They're the CBS affiliate in Los Angeles. Their newscasters have been talking about emergency plans and bug-out bags or go bags. How long have I been talking about that? How long have I been talking about 72-hour kits, emergency prepared kits, and go bags? I've been on the air nearly 6 years. Nearly 6 years I've been talking about all this. Is anybody paying attention to what we've been talking about on this channel? I hope they have. Laura Marie is saying, what huge paychecks those fire people are getting? Why do they get paid that much? I'd like that answered as well. Especially after the fire chief had $23 million taken from her. Taken from the fire department. And yet, there are some newsmakers out there that are saying, oh, the fire department could have money for used fire equipment, used trucks. I agree. There is money out there. There are used fire equipment out there. LA Fire Department has always had some of the best equipment out there. The firemen have mechanics, and the fire departments that don't have mechanics that are also firefighters. They work on keep the trucks up. They work on keeping the trucks up. That's part of their duties. Yes, they could get used fire trucks there. Used fire trucks are all over the country. Used ambulances are all over the country. Many used ambulances have been given to different companies to auction off. I'm sure LA Fire's had ambulances that they've given to companies to sell off. Used ambulances and fire trucks are all over. They're available. Unreal. Yes, Virginia had a 2.8 and a 2.3 earthquake. Virginia, guys, we talked about that yesterday as well. Unreal. The entire East Coast is moving. The entire East Coast is moving from Maine all the way south through North and South Carolina, Georgia, and even up to northern Florida, or all the way down to northern Florida. Earthquakes. Earthquakes. The entire country is moving. The New Madrid Fault is moving. Maybe tomorrow night I'll talk about the New Madrid Fault and the East Coast. Delete Fund says Newscomb and everyone else in California have no impacts on his life. But those people have impacts on a lot of people. 400 or 500 million people live in and around Los Angeles. And yes, all around California as well. They have impact on those people in California. Unreal. Delete Funds is saying people are converting former ambulances into full-time campers. I would love to have an old ambulance. Yes, I'd turn it into an emergency vehicle. Again, not an ambulance, but an emergency management vehicle with radios and camping equipment so we can take our show on the road. We can actually take our show out on the road to disasters and drills all around this country. If some of you want to get me an old ambulance, I'll do my best to outfit it for EMA. I'll repaint it, EMA colors, put EMA logo all over it. I'll put ham radios, citizen band radios, and scanners in that ambulance. And we will go around to different drills and disasters. Okay? Demon Catman just said you can send me information on what you would like me to talk about. You can send your complaints to me. Everything. Down the bottom of your screens, I'm scrolling our email address, and I'm scrolling our property address. 104 North Green Street, Box 105. Morganton, North Carolina. Zip code here is 28655. Yes, I would also love your cards and letters. You can send them there. Send them to my post office box. 104 North Green Street, Box 105. Morganton, North Carolina. Zip code is 28655. Even Demon Cat sent me a package a while back, a few months ago. And Dean, I appreciate that a lot. Aubrey's here in the chat. She's saying sorry she's late. Thanks for being here, Aubrey. We appreciate you. Delete Fun said he left California many years ago, as I did. I left San Diego back in April 2000. I could no longer afford to live there, and I was a cop. The rents were outrageous. Food costs kept going up. Utilities kept going up. I could no longer afford to live there. So I went to Denver, and I lived in Littleton, Colorado. I stayed in Littleton for 10 years, then I moved to Salt Lake City, just outside Salt Lake. And then I came here 4 years ago. Unreal. Yes, emissions are outrageous in California. Yes, they have emissions codes that are outrageous. And because of their strict emission codes, they rape the public with costs. Delete Funds is making homemade dog biscuits. Oh, that is great. I've made those myself. Thank you for being here, Delete Funds. We appreciate you. Have a good night. Joseph Vallows here in the chat said when he was a volunteer firefighter, they relied on grants and fund drives and bingo revenue. Yeah. I used to be a volunteer fireman for Poway Fire Department before I became a cop. Yes, I worked for the Poway, California Fire Department as a volunteer years ago. Even during my senior year in high school, I was a volunteer with the Poway Fire Department. Go figure. Go figure. Kathy Blaine says when she leaves the volcano, she throws 5 bags in her car. I have car kits if I pack for 14 days. The whole back seat floor is all water. She just received her crock pot for one to cook big batches in it. That's cool, Kathy. That's cool. Do any of you have any more questions for me? Does anyone have any more questions for me? I've taken a lot of time talking with you tonight, and I don't mind that at all. I want that. That's why I've continued talking with you. I appreciate all of you. Yes, I was a volunteer firefighter in Poway, California, and then I became a cop, and I spent 24 years in law enforcement. Crazy. Crazy. And I've been an emergency manager for my department. I've been an emergency manager ever since. That's what I do. I help people become prepared for emergencies. And I enjoy it. I get a thrill out of it. Charlene's talking about sweet salaries paid, yet accountability for missing and dried out hydrants. Yeah. Missing hydrants, the fire department. Missing water for the hydrants, Governor Newsom. Newsom needs to be throttled. Newsom needs to be arrested for drying out those reservoirs. 2 reservoirs, one in Pacific Palisades dry. Why? Just because he wanted to preserve some fish, letting the water go out to the Pacific, he needs to be throttled. Unreal. And then to top that off, the insurance companies. Insurance companies denying fire insurance. Well, guess what? On Monday, the state insurance commissioner talked to the public and said that he was in conversations with insurance companies to make sure if these companies had fire insurance with some of these homes, that these homes would be covered. I'll try to find that part of the video and bring it up on tomorrow night's program. Because the state insurance commissioner in California said that he would do his best to make sure insurance companies did what they were supposed to be doing, not turn their backs every time something happens. That's exactly what they've been doing, turning their backs and turning their banks, taking their money and run. That's what these insurance companies are good for. Unreal. Let's see here. Yes, fire blankets. By the way, I don't remember who sent me a fire blanket. I think it might have been Linda Covington. Sent me a fire blanket. So Carol and I have a fire blanket downstairs in case of a fire. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that. No, I haven't talked about Biden's farewell address. I really don't care. Biden is a scofflaw. He's a scofflaw. He's stolen money. He's laundered money to Ukraine, and Ukraine pays it back to the Biden crime family. I have nothing good to say about him. Not at all. Yes, Kathy Paina, that's something I did not talk about yet, is Kilauea volcano has re-erupted today. It erupted again today. Unreal. Linda Covington, thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much. God bless you. We hope you have a good night. Thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody else who's been here all throughout this time. We've been on the air now close to 2 hours. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. We've been here long enough. Yes, I'm going to talk about the pneumatic fault. I'm going to talk about earthquakes on the East Coast tomorrow night. Guys, I appreciate you all being here. God bless you for being here. If there's anything else that happens tonight of any importance, we will come back on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. The same thing for tomorrow morning. If anything happens between now and tomorrow night when we come on the air, we'll talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. I'll promise you we'll do that. If anything else happens in Ukraine or Russia attacks the United States, I'll talk about it. By the way, China and Russia have planned cyber attacks, and the cyber attacks against our utilities are presently underway. Cyber attacks from China and Russia are underway right now. If you didn't already know it, we are in World War III. That's one of the reasons I talked about those people that stole into this country. Terrorists and scofflaws. Yes, we have people from China, and we have people from Russia here. Okay? They plan it. They plan it. They know what they're doing. They're trying to invade the United States right now. One of the things that the U.S. Navy has are sub hunters. Yes, we have Russian subs off our coast on the east and west coast. We have Air Force planes and Navy planes flying up and down the coast from Alaska to San Diego and from Maine to Florida. Watching for Russian subs, watching for Russian and Chinese boats, and anything else that might be out there. Yeah, we're under attack. We're under attack. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you have a good night and a better tomorrow. Like I said, if anything else happens between now and then, we will be back on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a good night. God bless. Be safe. Take care. We'll see you soon. Good night.